Hello. You are listening to Dads with Startups,
a podcast about a couple of entrepreneurs who put family first.
Hey,
Oh, hey, how's it going?
pretty good. How about you?
Going pretty good. Pretty good. It's a busy time. It always seems that way, but this couple of last weeks have been particularly busy, it feels like to me.
Um,
So trying to make it
how
through it.
so? You want to get into that right now, or
Yeah. We are now we've commenced. We bought the house in the beginning of the year, and we've now started the building construction process with a few handyman contractor kind of guys. And walls are going up now, and we've went to IKEA, I think last week. It's all a blur now, but we went to IKEA and Home Depot and sat down and did like kitchen, 3D modeling with them and stuff like that, and pricing stuff out. And we're buying, stuff, ordering stuff, stuff's arriving. It's just like it feels like kind of chaos on one side. And then on the other side, we've got the current business that we run, which have to, it's like a flywheel. You got to keep pushing that thing and make sure it keeps going. And then, working on Owlish and ramping that up. And anyway,
yeah,
I was just out in the parking lot of my office here because I had a break, and I was like, I just have to center myself back and remember that, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So
so you guys aren't moved in. You haven't moved yet,
no,
right?
not yet. We are planning to move in when that kitchen's done, that'll be ready. It has a bathroom, we'll have a kitchenette downstairs, and then we'll be probably finding like a tenant for the smaller unit.
Right.
Uh, and so basically we'll be living there, and we'll have a tenant there as well. Probably some sort of like nurse or something like that who's traveling is the hope. But yeah, we're kind of thinking of that too. That's kind of, um, you know, we're gonna have to basically help our daughter finish out her year down in the valley, which is Phoenix, that's just about an hour away. And so my wife and I were talking about how, okay, we're gonna be kind of living, as much as we can up there, and maybe a few days down here. To One of us will be down there getting her to school. It's gonna be a big
That sounds
to
fun.
do because we don't want to rip her out of her school and start her in the
Yep.
middle of the year to a brand new school, but at the same time, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just such a headache.
Yeah. It's funny that you're going through that just after I got done going through all that. I mean, it's
Oh yeah,
big
yeah.
life change at the same time.
And you
But
moved. We haven't even gotten to that part yet. The moving of
yeah.
your whole life.
Yeah.
So, but you got through it. So that's inspiring to me.
Yeah. The dust is finally settling for me.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
you're calling in from your new
Yep.
office-ish type
I'm
thing, right?
I'm in the unfinished basement, and so behind me I've got insulation against the walls, which makes for really great
Cool.
soundproofing. Um,
Is that
but
for audio specifically, or is that just general
it's
insulation?
just the insulation that they put
Oh,
on
good.
in the
Okay, good.
unfinished basement, yeah, around the
Yeah.
exterior walls. So um, I think I'm sick right now. I may have COVID because everybody has COVID right now with Omicron going around. So excuse me, even though I'm vaccinated 3 times over now,
Yeah.
I think everybody I know that's getting the Omicron strain is also vaccinated. It seems to
Yeah.
not really help with
It's
that. So
it's enough of a difference, I guess, that your body, probably still has symptoms, right?
yeah, oh yeah, it just feels like a cold, and you
Mm-hmm.
know, we've had colds in our family since the school year started, and that's how it is with little kids. When you have little kids going to school, it's just the way it is. And
You didn't have COVID as far as you knew up to this point?
I've dodged the bullet up to this point. My 6-year-old, he had it for a while, about 3 months ago. So, and then we tested the whole family after the quarantine, and everybody tested negative. So it's possible
Gotcha.
some of our other kids got it, but we
Yeah.
don't know.
Right.
Um, but
And you don't even know if you have it. You might just have a cold for all you know at this
I
point,
don't,
right?
and the tests take so long right now
Yeah.
because they're so busy. So my
Right.
dad was sick, so he got tested on Sunday, and just today, Thursday, he got a positive test
Oh.
result.
Uh-oh.
And the end of his quarantine is over tomorrow. So it's like, well, what's the point of testing if you don't get the result
I
until
know.
quarantine is over,
Ugh.
you know? And our governor here in Utah, he told everybody, if you think you're sick, don't test, just stay at home and act like you have it, you know? Because
Gotcha. Just
I
to
think to
assume you
try to
didn't.
free up testing centers a little bit and
Makes sense.
take a load off of them. So
Well,
yeah,
gosh, hope you feel better sooner. It's been a couple days.
yeah, it's been probably I think about Sunday I started getting sick too. So
Yeah, a couple days it sounds like. Well, cool. Hopefully you recover fast. And what's going
yeah,
on in the so you're all settled with a house. I think we usually start with like a family story, any kind of family events going on with the kids or with just the
yeah.
general
Well,
citizens.
for me, last weekend, right before I got sick, my wife, I had a birthday, and my wife surprised me with a trip to
Happy
Denver.
birthday.
Thanks. So we flew on over to we flew to Denver. We went to a concert, a band called Lawrence that I've been really digging lately. Um, she actually got VIP tickets so we could
Wow.
meet the band kind of backstage, sort of. It
Oh,
was
cool.
technically in front of the stage before the show started, but um, yeah, we
What
got
kind of
to.
music is Lawrence?
I think I think they're listed as soul pop
Okay,
or funk. They're
nice.
yeah, they've got some horns in their band and pretty heavy on
Cool.
keyboards and stuff like
Check him
that.
out.
So yeah, it's this brother and sister um, that they're kind of the front man and front woman, and then they have their band
Nice.
with them. So um, yeah. Anyway, so we went to the show and rocked out with a bunch of 20 somethings, and it was a good way to enter the new phase of my own life, which is a little bit more than 20 something at this point. So
Just a little bit.
um, yeah,
Very
and
cool.
we had a good time. It's just kind of like a break from the kids. We're able to sleep
Yeah.
in because that never happens around here. And we
Yep.
went to some museums and
Oh,
um,
fun.
yeah, so it was a nice little break. But I developed some symptoms while we were out, and then came home and um, just been home ever since.
I
So
brought the COVID home.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how or where, or even if I have it. But yeah,
Yeah.
now that
It's bound to happen.
yeah,
And I guess that's the nice thing about that story is that's what used to happen before COVID-19. We would go to a concert and we would get sick, and that was just part of life, and it wasn't this,
yeah,
catastrophe. So I'm glad that for a lot of people it's becoming more normalized. And thanks to, you know, immunity and vaccines and all that stuff. So
yeah. How
very
about you?
cool.
What's new with the fam?
Yeah, the family wise, you know, I don't. The nice thing, we went up with my sister-in-law to the new house this weekend and got to meet the neighbors. My wife made cookies for all our little cul-de-sac, and my daughter and
Nice.
her went around and passed those out, and learning a lot about, learning more and more about mountain living. Like, just shows how little I know about anything. Like I'm in Phoenix where our yard is made of just rocks and cactus. So, I mean,
Yeah,
most I ever have to do is go out and pick a few weeds when it rains. But it's pretty low maintenance. And um, I don't, it's like you look at something, you don't know what you're looking at. So I was looking at this whole time purchasing the house. and there's pine needles everywhere, and I'm thinking, "Oh, how nice." And then so for me, it was like, "Oh, maintenance here must be blow the pine needles off the driveway into the side, and you're done." So talking to the neighbor's like a extra firefighter, and he's like, "Well, when are you guys gonna clean those pine needles up? You can't just let those there." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well," he's like, he's like telling me like the number, like, here's the types of rakes you're gonna get, and you
Oh,
got to have this done
nice.
X, Y, and Z, and you got to get these things off the roof. And so I'm like, she's like, "I assume you don't know any of this." I was like, "No, I know nothing, know
You
nothing
should tell
about
me
all
you're
this."
just planning on burning them all. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
just gonna
exactly.
have a bonfire in the
Just gonna
back,
have fire
burn
by
it
the
all.
backyard. Yeah, he'd probably freak out there. So, but it's it's a little lesson in mountain living, which is good for me to know. And it's funny too. I haven't lived, and maybe you've had more of this than me, but I've never lived in a town this small before. I grew up in a farm town in California in the Central Valley, which was not a massive city. But I think it was probably when I remember growing up, it was probably about 100,000, which wasn't teeny, but it wasn't huge either. Um, People did know each other. You'd see each other around town, but this is like I think about 15 or 20,000
Nice.
population, and it is like everybody knows everybody. And so every
Is there
time
a
you mention
Walmart there?
there's a Walmart, yeah,
Okay,
which is
that's
surprising.
good.
So I must be growing. That's why I assume it's Walmart and a Home Depot that are relatively new.
How far
But
away is the next largest town beyond
I think it's
yours?
actually Scottsdale, which is
Oh,
pretty
okay.
big.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
far.
it's yeah, pretty hour and
Yeah,
30 minutes. So or maybe about an hour 20 minutes or so.
gotcha.
So it's pretty big, but or it's pretty small, but it's funny when you talk to we've had a few contractors over, and it's like you mentioned they're like, "Oh, well, you talk to a plumber, who did you talk to?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I know him. He's, son of that guy." And that it just like reminds me of the
Family
old age
history.
of yeah, where like a blacksmith, you'd have the son and the grandson become a blacksmith. It feels
Right.
very much like that's how people have their work up there is they were raised by people that did that kind of work. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by that. So that's my
Sounds like a
update.
great sounds like a great town. That's my kind of town. We
Yeah, nice
I
little
I
town.
mean, our town where we live is about 15,000 population,
Yeah.
but the next I mean, there's a town that's about 70,000 in
Mm.
population, just like 5 minutes farther down the
Oh,
road.
okay.
So we're just
Okay.
kind of
So
like
you're kind of
off
in
to
the
the
mix of
side.
that.
Yeah,
But
big
that's
city.
still that's still fairly small, right? Where you can recognize people at certain places, but maybe
Yeah,
not as small. I mean, I guess not everybody knows everyone's business there, which is probably nice.
yeah, not quite, but yeah, I do, and I grew up in the area, so since I've been here, I've consistently run into people that I know at when I
Wow.
go to the grocery store or when I'm out and
Mhm.
about. So
That's
that's fun.
cool. That is fun. Any like ex high school, former high school classmates and stuff, I imagine?
Um, yeah, a few of those, and I mean, I went to college for 6 years
Mm.
also, and just people from college as well.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah.
That's great. So what is up with the business side of things? Any I think we are talking about, you know, anything since the last time that you accomplished? You said accountability side of that stuff, and then any
Yeah.
challenges, kind of things you're working through right now?
Well, I think last time
Wins.
we talked, I was about to maybe move into an office, or I had a lead for an office. I
Yeah.
can't remember, but
Yeah, you did.
I did find an office, and I was looking forward to broadcasting this there. That's where I left my good microphone and everything. But
Ah,
now with me being sick, I I'm just staying
gotcha.
home. So,
Makes sense. How's the office?
but
So it's
it's great.
uh your own space, and you mentioned you're gonna have maybe an assistant come work with you down the road or a staff member.
It's my own space. It's a 12 by 12 private office.
Nice.
So I came from a co-working space before. I looked into that here. There were a couple places here that people labeled as co-working spaces, but they weren't the same.
Yeah.
So it was like the attic in some house where some guy had like 4 desks and he was renting them out, and I was like, nah, that's not really what I want.
No,
So
that's not the vibe.
yeah, but this place is great. It's right on. the historic center street
Mm,
of the bigger city that I was talking about that I'm next
cool.
to, which is Logan, Utah. Um, and I'm up in this pretty old building up on the third floor, and I have an
Mm,
office that this 12 by 12 office has some windows overlooking the historic center street
cool.
with a bunch
Yeah.
of local restaurants and stuff. Um, and so there's room to grow in there too.
Hmm.
I could probably have 4 people and not be uncomfortable
Wow.
still. Probably for noise, it might be a little uncomfortable
Yeah.
having 4 people, but space-wise, I mean, I could fit 4 people in there if I wanted to. Um,
Great.
but it's just me right now, and we'll see what kind of what the requirements are going to be as far as people goes. So I'm I'm trying to hire, and I think I talked a lot about that
Yes.
last time, and I've got the ball rolling there. Um, I've interviewed a, a handful of people, and I've sent out just today. I sent out I think another round of about 7 emails to job candidates saying, "Hey,
Wow.
I want to
Okay.
meet with you on Zoom,"
Hmm.
because I'm hiring for 2 different positions, and one of those is at minimum part-time customer success role. And
Hmm.
there's a university here, and I plan on tapping into the talent of students at the university. And if that
Nice.
happens, then they probably will need a space to work. And so that's where having a little bit larger of an office will come into play.
That'd be great.
Um, so yeah, and then the other role that I'm hiring for is a marketing role, marketing and sales, um, and they will. I think are most likely going to be remote because in the small city where I am, um, finding someone with the right type of talent that's looking for a job is a little bit hard. Unemployment here is just insanely low. I don't know what it is, but it's the lowest in our state, and our state ranks among the lowest unemployment in the nation. So um, it's not very easy to find candidates who are here geographically. And so
Yes.
and it's 2022, and people want to work remote, and I'm okay with it. So um yeah, so that position most likely will be remote. If they are in the area where they can at least drive into the office and we can meet up regularly, that would be cool. Sort of a hybrid type of a situation. Um, then I could hire people from farther south from where I am, about an hour away, hour and a half away. So that's a possibility.
Good.
But yeah, that's where I am with the
Well, I mean,
hiring.
I guess you have to balance that. I mean, especially in a small town, you have to balance the quality of the candidate versus the ability to connect with them one on one every day. So that
Yeah,
makes sense. And hopefully you get some good folks that you can groom, maybe from the university system if they're mature enough, and you don't
yeah,
mind training a little bit there. I know that it seems like for me when I've brought people on at that age, even if they've graduated, there's still a few. It's sort of like they're still learning about kind of office etiquette, and like checking your email. That was something I remember learning. Like, my first job was
yeah.
like, Kevin didn't check your email all yesterday, and we were all waiting for you, and it was just like getting in trouble with a few of those things until I learned some of those kind of basics. So that's, if you don't mind helping them along with that, they could be, the talent there could be great.
I mean, at its core, I found a good worker is somebody who's self-motivated and
Mhm.
good at solving problems,
Nice.
where they
Yeah.
don't have to have you solve their problems for them.
Right.
And beyond that, it really just depends on what interests them, like what kind of job do they want to do. So if you find someone who wants to do the
Yeah.
job that you have and is self-motivated and capable of solving their own problems, then I think you've got a really great person. And
Yeah.
so
Totally.
all those qualities are actually kind of hard to find, but I think it's also as simple as that. So college
Hmm.
students tend to be good problem solvers. So,
True.
I look forward to that. Um, but the motivation factor, I mean, when I was 21, I was not motivated to excel in my career. I wasn't
Yeah.
even thinking about that kind of thing. It was more like I just need a little money to pay tuition, and
Yeah.
the thing that's on my mind is what party am I going to this weekend,
Yeah.
or who am I taking out?
Yes.
So
Right. That's an interesting one. So almost the sweet spot might be a little later, but maybe, there's probably do they have graduate school level stuff going on
yeah,
there at the university? So
yeah, they do.
might someone in
Mhm.
that kind of category too who's
Yeah,
either recently from that. Is that University of Utah or what is
this
the
is
university?
Utah State
Utah
University.
State. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So probably a big pool there,
yeah, it
I
is.
would
It's a
guess.
big pool, and there are not enough jobs to support all the students here.
Yeah. Nice.
That unemployment that I mentioned, students don't count when you're talking unemployment numbers. So
Right.
there are a lot of students who are eager for a job, especially a
Yeah.
good, you know, job at a SaaS company. I think it's a really good thing.
That's probably a somewhat rare thing where even in
Yeah,
most of the US that's still a rare thing. It's not like the Bay Area or something or Austin
yeah.
now. So that's exciting. Well, cool. Hopefully you find someone soon on that. Any kind of so that'll be your challenge. Like, it's still kind of remain your the thing you're working on, trying to solve for next time.
It is a huge time sucker.
Yeah.
I spend so much time listing the jobs, going through I've had let's see, I can pull up the numbers right now. So
What do you post it on, by the way, for the most part?
I've so if I'm targeting the students at the university, they have their own job platform service
Mm,
that they use.
nice.
Um, and I've had some results there. Um, I've posted on LinkedIn jobs,
Oh yeah.
and I've paid to promote it. So I've spent a couple $100 promoting that for the last probably week or so.
Mm,
Um, and that has yielded a lot of really good applicants,
cool.
actually.
Great.
So
That's awesome. Good to hear.
um, I've had a total of about look at this number, it's about 26, 27
Mhm.
applicants
Great.
for the two positions. So it's a pretty good number, and I've screened that. I've taken about half of that and requested an introductory phone call with half of that group.
Gotcha.
Um, and then I've just held a couple of those. I had a no-show today, and it was one of my favorite
Ah,
applicants too. On
yeah,
paper,
I've
I
had
was like,
that.
"This girl has everything I want," and then
Yeah.
she booked a time, and I sent her like a Calendly link, and she
Mhm.
booked a time, and then she sent an email, said she's really looking forward to it,
Hmm,
and then she just didn't show up.
that's crazy.
So
It's always the ones that you don't or you expect that they're gonna show that don't, and it's the opposite. Sometimes the ones you
I
don't
know,
think will actually show up that we're like, "Hey, great." So
yeah,
that is, well, that's itself part of the interview, right? Is
it is.
to
It's definitely. I mean, if she emails me back and asks to reschedule, then I'll probably give her a chance, but it's definitely a point against her.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's interesting, wow. Yeah, that's cool. Alright, well, I guess on my end, I on the pro so I'll just kinda focus on
I
what
I I
I'm
have a few more
Oh,
things
yeah,
to
I'm so
talk about in
sorry.
the Chubs, actually.
Please.
When it comes to challenges, because
Yeah.
you were fishing for that a little bit. I am a little split on this marketing specialist position that I have. Um, Probably one third of their job is going to be sales, going to
Mhm,
conferences and nurturing leads that we get from the conferences, which is a little bit more of a sales. I think if you're going to hire somebody to go out and attend conferences, that's usually a sales job.
mhm.
Um, but the um, but the job is quite easy. You just go and be friendly,
Yeah.
and then do activities that we can do raffles and things like that, and just get contact info for people, um, and then their job is going to be to nurture those leads. They can put together email campaigns, that kind of thing, to nurture these leads until they are in a point where they actually want to talk about using a software like Civic Review. Um, and that's where I would take over. So I'm going to assume the role of an account executive. I'll be really doing the demos and closing the deals and that kind of thing. So, but then when they're not doing the conferences, the other responsibilities are um, coming up with a marketing strategy. Like, how else do
Mhm.
we find new leads? And I'm going to run this 1 year experiment of minimizing the amount of cold outreach, because that
Mm.
activity has yielded the worst ROI of pretty much all the other activities
Oh,
that I've done. And
okay.
so, um,
Even though that's how you
conferences,
started the business, if I remember, that was one of the ways
yeah,
you kind of
yeah.
got your
I
first
think now
customers.
we've gotten more results from referrals because that's
Aha.
natural. And then a little bit of like people are finding us on search,
Yeah.
and we don't really have any presence. Like, our webpage
Mm.
has like 5 pages on it, you know? So I really
Right.
want to lean into that, because I want to, I feel like anybody who's looking for a product like ours, I guarantee they're doing a Google search for it, you know?
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
want to be there on that list. I want to get ourselves up to the first or second page on Google.
Right.
And so that's going to take some kind of a long game amount of work, content and marketing, and just there's all kinds of channels and activities that we could do there.
Cool.
So I opened up this position as marketing specialist, and um, but if we mostly lean into conferences, do I actually need a salesperson? Do I need a salesperson who has a little
Mm.
experience with content marketing, or do I need a
Mm.
marketing person and say, look, you just go to these conferences and do fun marketing
Mhm.
games, and that will be as good as any salesperson could do anyway,
Exactly.
you know?
That sounds better to me, the latter. Yeah, I
I
mean,
kind of think so. I don't think it takes a lot of sales skills to attend a conference and be friendly to
no,
people, but
no.
I don't know.
No, I mean, there's this notion that there's this classic salesperson that just has this incredible personality and can, convince people. I think we think of like the vacuum salesperson door to door and stuff,
Yeah,
like they have some gift or whatever. And we still have that kind of mystique, this kind of image of that person that can just that it's the person that's doing it. Um, and I think, you know, there's probably some truth to that, but your product is in its way, it's putting the product in front of people is going to sell itself for a lot of people, right? And once they see it and once they hear about it, that's one aspect. And then I think the other thing is my so I have some friends that kind of came from the marketing world and maybe like the sales world, and uh, were trained in that. And my impression of almost every single one of them is that they're terrible at marketing online.
the sales guys.
Just can't do it. Like, they're just don't think that way. They're good at
Mm,
talking to people, they're good at calling people up, and let's get on a call. But when you ask them to think about funnels, it's just like, uh, maybe if it's related to a CRM, maybe they could kind of picture that, like your cold call and then you put them into a funnel. But this whole notion of using search engine optimization to bring people into the website and what's going to happen in automations and maybe drip campaigns and all that stuff that we consider like internet marketing, if you want to call
yeah,
that, or you could even just call it digital marketing. I have found that the people who are really good salespeople in a traditional factor are often terrible at that other stuff. Maybe it's because it's like they never thought of themselves as techie or technologically
mm,
adept. So there was more just like, well, I'm better at talking to people. I'll just focus on that. That's my strength. And so I find it hard. Like, I have a few friends that are salespeople, and I'll talk to them about funnels and stuff, and they're just like, I mean, they're marketers. I'm not even a marketer. I'm a developer, and I get this stuff way better than they do. They're just like, what? Okay. So to me, it'd be a rare bird to find somebody who could do both really well. I would probably, if I had to
yeah,
choose, I'd probably choose the latter, like you're saying, because once you get someone who's personable enough in front of a customer via SEO, via marketing or ads, via uh, you know, even referrals, that person could probably learn to be a better salesperson. There's enough training out there and some tactics that are fairly straightforward.
yeah.
And I've
I,
I've learned that my own self, because I've become a salesperson for our other company, and I never was that kind of person. So
Well, yeah, I think sometimes I think of hiring in terms of putting together a puzzle of
Mm.
superpowers, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
m- or just level of proficiency at least, you know? Like my superpower is in product, but over the past 3 or 4 years of with Civic Review, I feel like I've gotten pretty good at sales and I've
Yeah.
figured sales out a little bit. Um, am I the best salesperson? Absolutely not, but I think I can hold my ground, you know?
Right.
Um, but marketing is a totally foreign thing to me, you know? And so
Yeah.
my hope is to hire a um a marketer um who can think outside of the box and try different things and
Yeah.
has some experience to bring to the table there. You
That'd be
know what I
great.
mean? So,
Yeah.
um, with the sales stuff, I can go, like, I can keep doing all the
Yeah.
sales, you know?
Okay. No,
So,
that makes sense. Well, that's
um,
interesting because I was just listening to a podcast. It was a real estate podcast actually, and I was not expecting to hear much about CRMs, but suddenly it turns into a really interesting conversation about CRMs. And what I realized was like, wow, this applies more to most business online businesses than I realized because this founder was again real estate tycoon type person. She was really using a CRM. She was using Salesforce in a way that I could be using our CRM, but I haven't been. Like, so, one thing that I've done well at is getting leads through the door digitally with through SEO and other means. But one thing our team hasn't done very well at is tracking those kind of like leads that maybe reach out. Maybe they come through your email list, or maybe they actually email you. And what do we do with them? What's the process? Do we just answer their question and then often never talk to them again? Or are we actually sticking them in a sales funnel where there's human interaction going on, where they get a reminder, where like maybe your salesperson gets a reminder 3 weeks
yeah,
later after that first initial email? Can I follow up with this person? Can I see if they have any other questions? And then maybe if they don't respond, 2 weeks go by and you do it again, right? So there's stuff like that I think that I've definitely could improve on. And that's someone who's really good with the technology and the sales in
yeah,
that domain versus someone who's really good at getting the leads in the door. There's almost a separate kind of role, it seems. And hopefully you can find someone who can do both.
yeah,
But definitely a lot of
yeah.
opportunities for improvement for us too.
All right, so enough about me, Kevin. How about you? What's
Yeah,
your
cool. Good thoughts on that. Yeah, so I'm earlier on with everything. I'm jealous of your problems, let's say, put it that way with this. Um, we are, you know, we're kind of at a place right now where it's like the almost done. I've been in this place for a long time. It feels like I put the product, and I did invite a few people to the actual product. So I'm happy to say that I'll pat myself on the back because I was scared to actually give anybody a login for a
mm,
while because it was just so just so like
yeah,
bolt, uh,
nuts and
a little,
bolts?
yeah, nuts and bolts were kind of falling apart a little bit. And I was like, I would notice another bug. I'd be like, oh, I can't send it out. So anyway, I pushed through that. I was able to send it out to about three folks for beta, and I talked to one of them. He liked it overall, but he was also noticing some of the bugs, and so he's like, yeah, it doesn't look like it's exactly ready yet. Let's talk in a little while. So we're pushing stuff back, putting these conversations, pushing them back about a month or so. And my devs are currently implementing the last sort of important piece for a minimum viable, I think, which is course creators need to obviously sell courses. Right now, we don't have that ability. You can make a course, you can teach a course, but you can't buy a course or sell a course, I should say, to students.
Oh,
So right now, we're currently implementing Stripe Connect. I don't know if I talked about that last time, but
you did.
that's okay. Great. So we're implementing that. It's still kind of not done yet.
Hmm.
We're getting closer, but we're kind of, I'd say, wrapping that up in a few weeks. The good news, I guess, right now is that in the meantime, um, I've just seen kind of a number, just more demos keep showing up. Like people are signing. I have one in
Yes.
about 45 minutes that I've been talking to this guy past couple of days via email. Somebody an hour before this podcast signed up to schedule something early next week, and so I'm getting a healthy flow of interest of demos being requested, which I think is a good sign. And people are chatting with me about this stuff and what they want and their requirements. And I'm learning a lot about like what now I'm starting to learn kind of like what what they want and what they want beyond just the basics. And so things that keep coming up are like languages, interestingly enough. Like 3 people now have mentioned their interest in teaching courses in different languages than English and wondering if we support that. So, I'm getting the feeling that something we'll have to address earlier than later, in the sense of being able to have basic
Yeah.
translation settings where you can, instead of marking, clicking on the complete button, you're marking on some other language for that translated
Right.
word. Um, and then even today, like I didn't realize in our builder that we built it with just left indent. Oh, sorry, yeah, left alignment in mind because that's how
Mhm.
English is. And somebody wants to build a course in Hebrew, and I was like, oh, yeah, of course, we don't have that. So I was like, all right, team, we got to build this in. Not a
Well,
big
now you
deal,
gotta
but
decide where do you draw the line, right?
yeah, right.
You
Yeah, that's where
yeah.
things get a little tricky, and you probably do a bunch of this stuff. So I'm starting to now hear about the specific use cases and thinking like there's a tendency for me to want to make everybody happy and say, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
work on that because I just want to, some customers. But I also have this feeling that I have to be careful of what I'm promising,
Right.
especially if they're going to sign up and pay. The other thing that kind of came to me in a mastermind today, I was in a mastermind earlier today, which is something to recommend to everyone if they're not in one, is to really think about the way I'm thinking about pricing right now. Like we have a limited budget for this product. It's the runway seems long as we don't widen the road. Like if we widen the road and double our development costs, our runway now has a pretty definite endpoint.
Mhm.
Um, and so, given our current development budget, we can keep going, but it'll be kind of a slow pace. And that's not enough, I think, to start rapidly building features that I think people that are fairly essential features that people are going to walk away and say, yeah, this has mostly, but I need this and I need this component. And sorry, I got to go. I mean, one simple example is a comment system. Like when you're taking a course, you should be able to leave a comment or ask a question below that lesson. We don't have that right now. So that's something that's going to take a little bit to build, but these are kind of essential things that other platforms have that we need to just build. And so talking to my mastermind, it kind of the notion of like my idea of having a free plan is starting to get starting to question whether I should really do that. And my idea initially was that I would have this free plan. It would help get people on board and maybe promote it. And we might have some logo branding so that other people who saw or took a course using our platform would, maybe start their own course. And that's probably a good idea in theory. I know it's how Calendly got started. I mean, it's a great episode of like how I built this. If you listen to the Calendly one, like he basically ran out of money um, for funding this startup and just had to make it free because it couldn't afford to put in a payment system, and that kind of caught on. It was rather rapid fire with that. So that was sort of my dream with the free plan, but I'm really having to rethink that and question whether that's a good idea because I do need funds to keep building more features and so if I have a paid, if I have them all as paid, that would probably be more reasonable in terms of making this kind of work for the long run. So just some thoughts there.
How was the free plan going to work in your mind?
Yeah, it was going to work. It wouldn't necessarily cost us too much in terms of taxing the system. It was going to basically allow you to create one course with a pretty high number of students or learners, about 100, but you had to bring your own video. So if you wanted to put it on S3, Amazon, or put it on YouTube, or put it on Vimeo, you could do that. We wouldn't have to host the video, which would reduce our costs to practically nothing. All you have is an account that really, just hit the server a little bit. Versus the video side of things is what makes things expensive. So that was going to be the free plan. But
Great way of looking at it from a cost perspective, you know.
Mhm.
I think the other flip side is like from a value perspective, would that be valuable enough for people to even bother with the free plan? Right?
Yeah, good question. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. It's a good question too, because there's the promise is simplicity, and having the video system native where you can just upload a video is quite
Yeah.
easy versus having to hook up this
The whole point of
stuff.
the free plan is a trial, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
like use our free
yeah,
plan, then upgrade. But if the free
right.
plan is complex, are they going to upgrade? You know,
That's true.
like
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's a good
so.
point too. So it might be better to give them a great experience at a reasonable starting cost, and then we could always do. I have heard of companies putting a free plan out after they've gotten some traction as a way to grow faster, and so maybe that's something that we look at down the road. But
You
right
could
now,
do
maybe
a
it's not a good
trial
idea.
like a one lesson is free, like a one lesson
Mm,
course. Like try it out
how
with
interesting.
this. I don't know,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
something like that.
So
Have
not
you?
so not a limited trial, but like you can do one or two lessons, and that's indefinite in terms of time. But
Yeah,
that's an
and
idea.
any serious educator is going to pay, right?
Right. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like that.
Um, when it comes to all these features, have you heard of the Eisenhower Matrix?
No.
So, um, I first heard about this from a Y Combinator class that
Hmm.
I listened to a lecture, and you can draw a grid for yourself,
Okay.
and with you list out all the features, or you can think of it in more broad terms than just features. It could just be business activities, like with Civic Review. I have maybe some payment related features that are on my mind that I want to build, But I also have to hire a customer success person, and I have to hire a marketing person, right? And then I have to, there's these other tasks. Well, for each task, you give it a score. Um, that's kind of an effort versus value, basically. Like how, and value, you think in terms of what's our main goal to raise our MRR, right?
Right.
So if building this payment feature requires a lot of effort, but it's not going to impact my top line MRR number very much. So that's going to get a lower
Mm,
priority, and then
I like it.
hiring a customer success person, that's actually taking quite a bit of work as well, but the value is incredibly high. I mean,
Right.
maybe not in terms of MRR alone, but it frees up my time and allows me to do things that raise MRR. And
Hmm.
then there's by hiring a marketing person, that's definitely going to raise the MRR. So you think of these activities, you could also break it down into features like, all right, if we add support for right to left text for Hebrew,
Right.
is the is the effort pretty low to do that? And if is the gain low
I like
also?
it.
Well, low and low, that's not so bad, it's low
Right.
effort or low to
There you go.
medium gain, maybe it's worth it. So then
Mhm.
you don't really have to be drawing this line and say, no, we're not going to do that. Oh, well,
Mhm.
actually, it takes not much work, versus like internationalization in general, like,
Yes.
multiple languages, that sounds like a lot of effort. Um,
Totally.
and if you have enough people asking for it, it could raise your MRR by quite a bit,
Yeah.
but
True.
maybe you don't. And so maybe you
Yeah.
don't add that feature. The other thing
I like that.
when I was thinking about the language, um, you never know. Like I've heard of people having products that don't have success in the geographic location they think it is,
Mm.
and then it explodes somewhere else first.
Mm-hmm.
Because what if there is no LMS? Is that why you're building an LMS, learning
Effectively,
management
yeah.
system, sort of
Yeah.
course hosting software, whatever,
Right.
for the layman? What if there isn't one that exists that works with Hebrew at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Or
somebody's
will.
asking for it. You don't think it's a big deal. What if
Right.
you add that in and it works well with Hebrew, and then all of a sudden everybody in Israel uses your software?
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
You know,
Exactly. That makes
suddenly
sense.
you have this like super popular tool in Israel, and that's going to eventually bleed over into other areas.
Right.
So
Right. Nice. I like
hard.
that.
It's
No,
not
that's a
always
great tip.
black and white on what to do. It's always
Yeah.
hard to know.
That's a really good way of framing it too, is versus just, maybe some metric of like how many people have asked, like really thinking about what's the work it's going to take and what is the possible value it's going to bring to the business. So thank you for that. That's called the Eisenhower grid. Is that right? Or
Eisenhower Matrix,
matrix? Okay. Yeah. Eisenhower matrix. I wrote that
or
down. I'll look
effort.
it up.
Oh, effort versus impact. That's
Nice.
another
Effort
way of I've
versus
heard of it called.
impact. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Cool. This is a great tip. All right, cool. Well, that's it for my update. I was going to say one thing for anyone listening that I discovered through the DCE, this Dynamite Circle, which is a kind of a entrepreneurial community that I think we're both a part of. Someone posted like, what's a great or what's a solid and relatively inexpensive email ticketing system that I could use for the business. I mentioned one that I thought was good. But someone mentioned something called Free Scout, and if anyone's used Help Scout before, it's basically like that, a clone of that, but free. And then um, it is a darn good deal right now. I was shocked by the number of like add-ons that you could buy that are like within no more than $15 for lifetime licenses. So I think it's a good deal at this moment. I don't know how long it'll be that way, but seems like it's well contributed. It's sort of an open source project. You can throw it up on any web host. It's PHP. I think it's something like maybe Laravel or something. But anyway, I threw it up on a website that I had, or just made it on my web host within like 20 minutes and hooked it up. And I'm really impressed by how smooth it is, how nice it is, and how feature rich it is. And you can just add as much as you want or as little as you want and save yourself a lot of dough as a business. So that's my one tip of the week that I'm going to be excited to use.
Yeah. Interesting. I love finding good tools that you're a huge
Yeah.
fan of.
Yeah. Cool. That's all I got though.
Cool. Well, yeah, let's see if there's nothing else I was talking about. Hopefully in 2 weeks I'll be close to hiring at least somebody. I gave myself a
Nice.
2-month timeline.
Okay.
So I wasn't aiming to really pick somebody by the end of January, but it would be nice. So we'll have to see.
Cool. Okay. And my payment system will be completed by next time. That's my goal. Get this thing done.
Nice.
So I can
All right.
bring more people on. All right,
Let's
sir.
wrap it
Great
up.
talking to you.
Okay. Have a good one.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can learn more by visiting dadswithstartups.com. Please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/dadswithstartups. Until next time, bye.